everybody. It is first Friday of the month. As you hear that familiar song there coming on, it's the first Friday of the month. We thank you guys and ladies for joining this morning. First day of November, the day after Halloween. Hopefully, no one got too tricked while they were out treating last night. We've got an amazing guest on today. Real quick, before we get into our talk and a little more about our introductions, I want to mention Joyce Noles, who is our guest today. Um, her camera is a little bit flickering, so don't think it's your camera. It is hers, and so we will just move on with the day's show. But just wanted to kind of make that mention. Also, too, we want to start keeping up with who all is joining us. If you won't mind, stick where you're from in the chat, so we can kind of keep that up. We've got some future plans for our reach. Thank you again for joining. As we always say, the most important person you'll ever lead is yourself. Go out if you haven't already and look at our podcast on Apple and YouTube. Also, these calls here that we do every month are also posted on YouTube. This call will be loaded up on YouTube in the next couple of weeks. So if you miss this or someone that you want to attend misses it, all of them are loaded there as well. So this morning we have a very special guest, Joyce Noles, who is no stranger to many folks across Tennessee and nationally. Joyce is the executive director for Medical Center EMS here in Jackson, Tennessee. And also, I want to just make mention that she is the current president for the Tennessee Ambulance Service Association, TASA. And kind of a unique thing that historically, for our history in Tennessee, Joyce is, as I said, the president for TASA, and then Shannon Morphus is our president for the Tennessee EMS Educators Association. So it never in the history of EMS in Tennessee have the two associations had a fantastic both female leadership. So we applaud you both, and you guys have done a great job during your time as serving in those roles. So Joyce, thank you for joining. I know you're a very busy lady, and definitely we had to get you on the schedule months ago, but the time has come. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and you're a very humble person. We all know that, but don't hold back. Tell us all some great things, and then we're going to get into a topic this morning: the listening and mentoring leader. And there's nobody else better to talk about that than you, Joyce. So, Joyce, tell us about yourself, and we'll get started.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thank you guys for the opportunity. And, I'm sure that there's a lot of other people who could speak much more appropriately to this topic than I am. But a little bit about myself. Been in EMS almost 30 years. I'm born and raised in Big Sandy, Tennessee, a little small town. And, when you come out of high school there, you don't think you got a lot of opportunities. So this has been a really great opportunity for me. And I encourage everybody to chase their dreams. Most proud accomplishment is probably my family. And proud grandmama of 5 grandsons. So that's pretty awesome. They range from 16 to 2 months old. So we have a lot of adventures at our house. So anyway, been in EMS. Most of my career has been with West Tennessee Healthcare. So again, been in TASA for many years, and this has just been a great and rewarding career so far.
Well, sounds like it, Joyce. You like going on at your house, and definitely you're definitely a servant leader. Those who know you know that. So thank you for all your leadership. So Joyce, you and I got together. You said, "Hey, I think we want to talk about listening and mentoring," and I'm like, "Yes." And during our conversations, we had a lot of good. You shared a lot of great things with me. A couple of things that stood out to me is in our talks getting ready for this, as you said, you got to have a mentor, you got to be a mentor, and mentorship goes both directions. And I believe that. But you also said that in order to be a good mentor, you got to listen first. So tell us about the listening leader.
Yeah, so a lot of times when you go into conversations, you feel like sometimes you're not being listened to. So to be a good mentor and a good leader, you have to learn to listen. And it's very important, when somebody brings you something, or just even in your everyday conversations, that you learn to hear what people are saying. And many times we worry about trying to figure out what we're going to say back. How are we going to respond? Do I know the answer to that question? But for you to be able to truly mentor somebody or to lead somebody, you got to know what they're talking about. You got to know what they feel. And it's not just about what they say, how do they present it? If somebody comes in my office and they're very passionate about what they're presenting, then they're really, you got to be in tune to that, because it's very important to them. What's their body language? Do they just kind of say, hey, this happened, or are they give you all the details? Are they in full about it, And we have to be prepared to fully hear what they're saying. And not always we're going to agree with what they say, or they may say something that makes us want to pop back and go, well, that ain't exactly right. But you got to really take your time, and you have to train yourself to listen to them fully. If you always interrupt them, or you're always finishing sentences for them or whatever, one, you give them perception you didn't care about what they had to say. And then two, you're not really understanding what they're trying to tell you. And a lot gets lost. And a lot of times we worry about that silence. When somebody tells you something and you feel like you got to respond almost immediately, it's okay for there to be some silence. It gives you a minute to process. More times than just once or twice, I've had somebody come in and try to talk to me about something, and I just sit and give it a minute of silence, and then they reflect more or add more that they might not have added to begin with. And sometimes they solve their own problems. I don't know if you've had that happen to you, Phil, but sometimes that happens that way. So I think really to be in tune and to hear what the person has to say. And it's very easy. Like when somebody walks in, I'm sitting in my computer and my email dings, and it's instinct to look to see who emailed you. Or your phone dings, you pick it up to look to see who it is or whatever. But you have to train yourself to let those be not be distractions to the conversation that you're having. And it's really hard. It's a hard thing to do. Um, and you almost have to practice it every day to make it work and be effective. So.
Yeah, Joyce, those are some really good points. You said you said, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, Phil, where people come in and they talk through their problems and then they solve their own problem. Well, the first thing that came to my mind, 2 points that came to my mind with a couple of things you said there is definitely we as leaders have to be good listeners. I mean, you're spot on there, and we need to, as you said, we need to be able to listen to understand. Seek first understanding. That. Some information there from the Covey books. One of the rules there. So whenever folks come in, they just want to. Sometimes they just want to vent, and
Mm-hmm.
they like you said, they got problems, and sometimes they solve their own problem. But one of the things that I'd like to just mention to the folks here on this call is, you know, we as leaders, we are like a sponge to everybody's problems. Everybody comes in and they want to tell us about their problems, and we're soaking it up. Now, keep in mind, we already have a full days of agenda and meetings and things that are already going on. It's super important that we care, and like you said, not get distracted into our email. And certainly, if we could tell our leaders out here, if someone comes in to talk to you, don't be typing on your email while they're talking to you. Like, give them your full attention. But what came to my mind, Joyce, when you said that is sometimes they do solve their own problems, but then sometimes they don't. We got to make sure that whenever it's time for them to exit the room, that we have a plan in motion that helps them to not only resolve their issue, but takes their problem back out of the room with them. you know,
That's
you know,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
because now don't misunderstand what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen here. I'm not saying we ignore it. We're here to help, but we don't just own it 100%. They got to own some of it. And then, as they're exiting the room, we've got a plan. They're taking that with them. And then we're all acting together to help them get to a better place. So that kind of came to mind there. And then another thing that came to mind, as you were saying, give them their full attention. many years ago, I attended a seminar, and they gave out these little things you can sit on your desk, and it says "Be here now." And I have kept that thing on my desk ever since, and I put it right in front of my computer so that whenever I'm talking to someone, I'm reminded to be here now. In other words, giving that person my undivided attention. So, if anybody on the call here is having trouble sometimes with being distracted while someone is talking about their problems or things that, are very concerning, put you a little sticky note. I don't know. You could probably go on Amazon and order one of those little signs, "Be here now." But, put that right there in front of your computer so that every time you look at it, you can be reminded, "Be here now." Because people want to know that we care, right? And if we're not good listeners, caring listeners, then, that gives the wrong message. So good stuff,
Yeah.
Joyce.
I will tell you one thing, another thing that I've started doing too that I have found helpful to keep me from being distracted is I get out from behind my desk and I go sit in the chair. I have
Hmm.
a couple of chairs in my office so that I sit across from the person. We can have the conversation just like we were sitting in somebody's living room or something. And it takes those distractions from my desk away. And I found that to be really helpful. And it's almost like it helps them to engage with me as well. They can't hide behind my monitor, my screen. They have to actually be looking at me face to face, and I think it helps both of us, and it helps the communication process um,
Hmm.
really well. So
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's a great idea. I like that as well. Uh, so Joyce, we talked a little bit here about being a good listener. You brought out some really good points there. Listening is learning. We have to truly understand them as we're listening to them. We want to allow them to finish their thoughts, and sometimes we don't know all the answers.
that's right. One of the biggest lessons I learned when I first got into management or leadership was that I don't have to know the answers. All I have to do is be able to relate to them, let them know that I heard them, that we're going to work together for a solution, and that if I don't have the answers, I'm going to help them find some answers. And but don't think you got to know all the answers. I think that's where a lot of leaders get in trouble is they start just trying to shoot from the hip and not really give the best advice because they're trying to give an answer. It's okay not to have an answer.
100%. People don't want to hear something fake.
That's
They want you
right.
to be
That's
genuine, right? And
right.
if genuinely you say, "I don't know the answer," I think they would much rather hear that than you just
Yep.
making up something. Yeah,
Yep.
100%. Well,
Yep.
Joyce, sadly, we all know that a dear friend, a mentor, a leader in West Tennessee, across this state, and across nationally known, recently passed away. And I honestly, I had this individual on my list and radar to reach out to about this time. I was going to reach out and say, "Hey, let me get you on our calendar for next year for this call." But unfortunately, the good Lord saw other things for him. Tell us about him, story that she was going to share about him and loving people, which he definitely did.
Oh man, so JR had a bad habit or a good habit, whatever you want to call it. He had a habit of he'd just call you and say, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm in my office working." He'll say, "I'm outside, come get in the car." And you go get in the vehicle with him and you didn't know where you were going or when you were coming back, but you knew you were going. And so he would just take you for a drive, and it might just be around town, it might just be the station. You might go to somewhere to eat because y'all know he loved to eat. Um, but anyway, but when he had something on his mind or he thought you had something on your mind, um, he had a just an uncanny way of showing up. And so 2005, I was in 2000 and in July of 2005, I was a very happy station manager in Benton County, enjoying life, and it was great. I had about 18, 20 people I had to deal with. It was life. Life was great. Um, and they presented me an opportunity to come to Jackson and run the whole operation, which at that time was 3 counties and about 100 people. Um, so after talking with my family, praying about it and everything, I decided to do it. And so probably around 2006, I'm still struggling a little bit with, wow, just a lot of stuff going on, and how I went from knowing everybody to now I don't know everybody. And now there's all these different personalities. And I'd always lived a rural country life, and now I'm in more of an urban setting. And so there was a lot of stuff going on. And JR just had that way of knowing when you had something on your mind. And so one day he pulled up like he always does, and he said, "Hey, let's go for a drive." And he said, "So what's going on with you?" Just I could just tell something's not right. And I said, "Man, I don't know. I'm just struggling a little bit." And after some great conversations, and I told him a few things I was dealing with and all that, he said, "You just got to love people." And he said, "Not do you just got to love people, you got to love people you serve." And that will always resonate in my mind. It was not people that I managed, I led, or whatever. He said people I served. And so that is exactly right. As leaders and managers, that's what we do. And JR had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world that he mentored. Um, and so all throughout, he would remind me that we had to love the people we served. No matter what, we had to love them. He was always there. He was always the one that showed up, and he's always the one that taught us how to love people. And part of it was just showing up for people, just show them you love them. Some people are a little harder to love than others. We understand that, right? But we have to love them all the same. And if you truly love what you do and you truly love being in a leadership role, you're going to love the people no matter what. And JR was probably the best mentor in the world to show that. And so it's always um, it's always good to go back and remember those drives, because man, we solved the world's problems on those drives. I'm just telling you. And uh, sometimes you was worried that you needed more life insurance riding with JR, but for the most part, it was it was very a very humbling, and just looking back now, I'm very honored to be able to have those calls and those drives with JR. But just loving people, we have to love people.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. Sometime we may have to get you back on here just to hear about the stories. That
Yeah.
sounds like they were very, encouraging and life lesson there. But you said loving people, and again, for those who knew Jr. That was, I always felt like that me and I, not really have been away for a long time, but you know I always felt like if I ever was in Jackson passing through and I had a flat tire, if the only person I could think of to call, he would help. He was just
Yep.
that kind of person. Certainly I would not call him first, but he's was a very busy man, but I just felt like he was just that kind of person, that would definitely come to your rescue. But, when you say loving people, is I've said on this call many times, and for anybody who's joined our leadership classes that I've been involved with teaching, one of the things that I always say is that we can sum up leadership in one word, and that's others. That's it. It's
Yeah.
about others. If we're not in it about others, and you can add loving others to that, then we're in the wrong lane. So we got to check ourselves there. Well,
Yeah. It's all
Joyce,
about who we serve.
absolutely 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, Joyce, as I told you during our talks, these calls go by really fast. So we're getting close to time for questions, but we definitely want to get some of your insights on mentoring. So, folks, if you would just be thinking about your questions, put those in the chat. We'll pull those up here in a couple of minutes and get Joyce to answer those. But Joyce, we've talked some good talks about leadership, listening. Tell us a little bit about mentoring.
So, to me, mentoring is one of the most important things you do as a leader. And many times, you can just sit around and sometimes I just like to sit around and just have conversations with people. And you get the opportunity to see who has some potential, or people who just inspire to do more or whatever. And it's important as a leader to reach down and pick those folks back up, and to bring them up to you and expose them um, to the context that you have, and to the like get them involved in organizations like TEMSEA and TASA, and show them that that's how that you learn how to do things, and you meet people, and exposure to others, and making sure that um you provide some opportunity and some guidance. And the most important thing in mentorship is encouragement. You show them encouragement, you listen to them, and what works for Phil Sanderson might not work for Joyce Noles. I mean, you have to individualize it to the person, and you have to make sure that you're paying special attention to, the speed in which they want to grow, or just the areas they want to grow in. Um, but if you really care and you love for your people like you need to, then the mentorship's going to come easy.
Yeah. Well, I love a quote that you mentioned in our conversations. John Maxwell, of course, I'm a big John Maxwell fan. Is everybody that knows me knows that. Uh, One of the quotes that you mentioned there, John says, "The best way a mentor can prepare another leader is to expose him or her to other great people." And again, just goes back to what we've talked about. It's about others. It's about loving others. You
Yep.
know, Leaders, we have to be okay with surrounding ourselves with other people who want to be like us or better.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I hope
mhm.
nobody wants to be like me. I hope they want to inspire and grow and do great things. Don't be like me. Just move on.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. But there's so many folks out there that have the wrong idea about leaders. They're like, "Oh no, stay away because you might know what I know, and then what would I be?" So, but it's not about us; it's about others. So, great thing there about mentoring, connecting other people. To other great people. Again,
That's
that's
right. Yeah.
mentoring. Absolutely. So it is 7:21, and again, it's passing by so fast. Let's see what we got here in the chat room for any questions. And as folks are typing those in, we'll we got a question here. So, Joyce, how does active listening play a role in effective mentoring as a leader? I think we've talked quite a bit about that, but any additional thoughts on that? How does active listening play a role in effective mentoring as a leader?
Well, first of all, you know, um, active listening is a skill. You have to figure out what that is. Many people think they listen, but they really are not actively listening. So, when you are actively listening to what somebody is wanting to do, actively trying to figure out what they're asking you, or what they're bringing to you, then as you move into it, you got a better grip on the way that you should respond back to them. So, if I'm just, I hear three words out of what you say: problem, maybe a detail of what it is or whatever, then I'm going to give you some reply back that's not even half of what you really need. So if I actively listen to you, I'm able to take a listen to what you're saying, look at your body language, um, know you. If I really know you, then I can actually tell you, hey, look, this is going to be the best way for you to respond to this, or um, because the one problem for the same problem for two different people are two different solutions, if that makes sense. And so I have to actively listen to you to figure out what that problem is to you individually, and then how to help you work through that problem.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Good. Thank you for sharing. Another question here in the chat room is, how do you approach mentoring those who are hard to mentor or resist? Now, that's a great question. I got all
Great.
kinds of thoughts about that, but we're not here for
Yeah.
me. Let's hear what you have to say.
Oh wow. So the way I approach it, and again, don't be like me, be better than me. The way I approach it though is I just try to get to know the person. I don't try to push it on them right at the beginning. I try to get to know them. Like, hey Phil, how's your family? How's things going? You having a great day? What's this? Hey, I've got this little issue I'd like to talk to you about. Can you give me your insights on what's the best way to reorganize our ALS bag, or, give me, and try to involve them a little bit and just slowly drag them into that role to where before they even realize it, we have become friends, and then we're going to become into that mentor mentee relationship.
hmm hmm Yeah, that's spot on. Good answer. And sometimes too, uh, we have to evaluate if the person's teachable.
That's true.
Yeah, because if we have an individual who we see a lot of potential in, but they're just not teachable, then we got to evaluate that and figure out whether or not we want to move on to someone else who we can actually mentor and become the best they can become. So, yeah, that's a great question. Good answer there too, Joyce. Another question here is, what strategies do you use to mentor individuals with different learning styles and personalities? Now, that's a that's a good question. What
Ooh,
about
that's an
that?
all day answer. Uh, so once again, it goes back to knowing that person. Okay. So you learn who that person is. And so some of the strategies I use, just like we talked about the person who's hard to mentor is I get to know them. And then we have the one that's the eager beaver, as I call them. They're all in. Tell me what I can do. How can I help? Those people, you have to give them tasks. Okay. They have to know they're moving forward. And so what I do for those kind of folks is I try to give them something to engage them into what we're doing. You know, if they're already in my management program, then I'm going to try to engage them in something in that. But if they're not and they're inspiring to be, then I'm going to give them stuff to work for that helps them get into that role. Um, there's so many different learning styles and so many different things that you can do, and I think you just have to take each individual by itself and figure out um, what's going to work for that individual.
Yeah, that's good. Joyce, do you there's probably many moments, but do you have any moments where you've looked back and saw, hey, I had the opportunity to play a small part or play a mentoring role in this individual, and man, they've done well. They've promoted, they've moved forward, they've moved on, and any of those moments in your career?
Yeah, I'm sure I can think of a few that but I never really consider myself the one that plays the big part in anybody. I think any part I would play would be really small, and I would just hope that they would see me as a friend. And Phil, we went to paramedic school together, and majority of our paramedic class is in a some type of leadership role, and that was pretty cool, I thought. Um, and so, it's not really that I think of people maybe that I might have helped, but maybe more fellow colleagues. And, if I just could inspire one person to do one thing better, then I've met my accomplishments. And
Yeah.
it's just an honor to get to talk to so many people. And the opportunities that were presented to me, we talked about you have to be exposed. Well, I was exposed by some great leaders. When I first came in 2005, I got great exposure, and I have to appreciate that.
Well, Joyce, you picked the best song, Always Be Humble and Kind, that we played, and that's you. That is you. Well, that's our cue right there that we've got 2 minutes to wrap up. Thank you so much, Joyce. Quick summary here. Two great points to become a great listener is be present and focus. Practice empathetic listening. Also, three good points here for mentoring someone. Be an active listener. Tailored guidance and encourage self-reflection. Those are some good summaries of everything that Joyce talked about this morning. We have an exciting end of year for you guys next month. It's hard to believe that this is now our 9th one. Now we're going to hit our 10th one. December is here. Join us next month, December 6th, as I actually will be hosting my wife, Tanya Sanderson, Senior Director of Revenue Integrity at Exelis. Exelis is a leading IT healthcare company. Tanya is a senior leader, has been for many years in some organizations such as CHS, Mayo. Everybody's familiar with Mayo. Her topic is going to be leading through the fire, things like leading teams through tough times, downsizing, transformation, making tough decisions while showing, like we're talking about, passion and empathy. So join us December 6th for that. Again, remember, the most important person you'll ever lead is yourself. And everybody, I hope you have a blessed day. Take these notes, share them with your teams, download the YouTube, share it with your teams, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you, everybody.